than the one that we already got. I just don't think that's possible. I don't think the Fed could print that much money without destroying the dollar. Now we'll see. I thought that after we tried to reflate the housing bubble, I thought that was going to be the one that did it. I thought that they trying to reflate that bubble would break the dollar. It didn't. They were able to inflate a bigger bubble than the housing bubble that popped in 08. So I underestimated the bubble blowing ability. But I don't think I'm underestimating again. I mean, the one that they would have to blow now would have to be so enormous. I don't even see the possibility of that happening. So this is it. We are on the eve of this destruction, and people need to be prepared because you're not going to get another chance here. This is your only chance to get this right. I mean, if you didn't understand it the last time, you got another chance, but you're not going to get another one after this. Austin Anderson, you're a great individual. I'm 25 and I've been a big fan for 3 years. There's been serious inflation in the price of lumber and basic goods. Do you think it is measured by the Fed? Look, inflation, again, is the money supply going up. I mean, that's what it is. Prices are going up, no question about it. And there are a lot of prices that are going up a lot more than the government admits. I mean, there's no question that the CPI does not do a good job of capturing all the inflation that's out there. And that's by design, right? The government does not want a CPI that picks up all the inflation, right? Any more than, the mafia would want accurate statistics on crime, right? If you hired somebody from the mafia and you said, hey, go out there and let us know how much crime we have because we want to know if we need more cops, right? Well, the last thing you want if you're running crime is more cops. So you're going to come up with statistics that say, hey, look, there's no crime at all. In fact, not only do we not need more cops, we have too many cops. We should fire some because there's nothing for them to do, right? Obviously, they're going to cook the books, and come up with statistics that show that you don't need more police because that's the last thing they want is more police. Well, the last thing the government wants is for the bond market to police their fiscal irresponsibility. So they don't want to let the inflation cat out of the bag. So the government's responsible for telling us how much inflation there is. What do you expect? They're not going to tell us how much inflation there really is. The last thing they want us to know is how much inflation there is. So they come up with these ways of measuring it that don't really do it. But even now, you hear a lot of people talking about that the real rate, the rate of inflation for the things that people are actually buying are going up, and they are going up. And it's just going to get worse. And eventually, all the numbers are going to get worse. I mean, will the numbers always understate how bad the problem is? Yes. But at some point, the problem will be so bad that even the understated numbers will be bad. But of course, that means that the real numbers are even worse. Let's see where we are here. Hi, Peter. I'm from South Korea. Currently, Korean government is doing QE. Yes, a lot of governments are doing QE. And we have a real estate bubble. Can you comment on South Korea? Look, I'm bullish on South Korea. Look, I mean, that's one of the better places in the world. I mean, no place is perfect, but there's more economic freedom there than there is here. And the government is making fewer mistakes there. And I think they're, better positioned. I mean, there's no question about that. So you're fortunate to be living there. And I think the yuan is going to go up. The Korean currency is going to gain against the U.S. dollar. Now, it will lose against gold. I mean, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't own gold, right? Gold's going to go up. I think all the world's currencies are going to lose value. I mean, that's just reality. I mean, all the central bankers are inflating, right? So all these currencies are going to lose value. It's just that some are going to lose more value than others. And so I want to avoid the ones that are going to lose the most value. And I think the U.S. dollar is going to be among the biggest losers. And the problem for the U.S. economy is going to be unique because Americans depend so dramatically on that overvalued dollar. That's what makes this whole dysfunctional economy work. That's the base of this, upside down pyramid. but it's going to collapse once we can no longer rely on the overvalued dollar. That's how we can live beyond our means. That's how we can borrow without saving. That's how we can consume without producing. But all that comes to an end when the dollar, loses that privilege. Tom asks me, how can the president lower this bubble and pay off our debt and do the deal before lowering tax? Look, we can't pay off the debt. It's impossible to pay off the debt, right? But that doesn't mean you can't solve the problem. Solving the problem means acknowledging that we can't pay off the debt and restructuring the debt. That means that not everybody gets paid back, or not everybody gets paid back 100 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's what we need to do. Now, some people say, Peter, we have to pay the debt. But if it's impossible to pay the debt, then how do we have to do it? Now, we can pretend to pay. We can print money and pay people back in money that has less value. But that's worse. I think America's creditors are going to take a bigger haircut if the haircut comes by way of inflation versus default. So I think the honest way to deal with debt that is unpayable is not to pay it, not to lie and pretend you can pay it by printing the money, because that ends up making it worse. So let's be honest with our creditors, admit they're not going to be repaid, and figure out how much we can pay and pay that, right? And everybody needs to take a haircut, not just people who own bonds, but people who are expecting other government checks, pensions, Social Security, right? A lot of commitments that the government has made, it can't keep. And there needs to be some shared sacrifice among a lot of people who have been promised more than the taxpayer can honestly deliver with real money. But once we eliminate a lot of the debt, then the public is no longer burdened with repaying or servicing that debt. And once we shrink the size of government, we relieve the public of the burden of having to pay for that government. And once we lower the burden on the economy and we have less government, lower taxes and fewer regulation, we have a far more vibrant economy, a far more productive economy. And so all this government is no longer needed because we've wiped out a lot of the poverty that the government was supposedly there to cure. The government had actually caused it. Getting the government out of the way allows the market to take care of the problem by creating the prosperity that enriches the poor and provides them with an opportunity to move out of poverty without the help of government. Government generally promises to get you out of poverty, but ends up trapping you in it. And that's exactly what they want, because they can keep promising to get you out of poverty, and then you keep voting for them, and then they keep giving you money, but they want your vote. So, and the way they get your vote is to promise prosperity, but not actually deliver it, because it's always a promise that they can make, and that you're buying this pie in the sky over and over again. See, once you no longer need government's help, they can't count on your vote. So the last thing they want you is to no longer need their help. So the longer they can keep you entrapped in poverty, the longer they can dangle a government ticket out, and you'll just keep reelecting them. Joe Billio. Eventually the left will take the White House because who follows Trump? His son, Don Jr. I see him posturing in that direction. What else do you see? Look, I don't think we're getting ready for a Trump dynasty where Trump's kids are gonna start running for office. Let's see if Trump himself can win a second term before we start talking about Don Jr. Jimmy Richards. Ever since the financial crisis, I've been a Schiff head. Okay, that's good. Schiff for brains. Guy from Brazil says I should be president of Brazil. Yeah, look, a lot of people, I'd be great if I could be governor of Puerto Rico. That'd be great for Puerto Rico. I mean, I don't speak Spanish well enough to do that. Although, I mean, I don't even say I don't speak it well enough. I barely speak it because, you know, I learned Spanish in public school. That's why